Today on the show, we are joined by former professional hockey player. After playing 3 years in the OHL, playing for 6 different teams, he made the jump to the American League, where he would go on to play 245 games, racking up 1,161 penalty minutes in that time. With many other stops in his professional career, including a stint with the Buffalo Sabres, we are very excited to talk to Sean, the Sheriff McMorrow. Thanks for joining us, Sean. Welcome to Chump Talk.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really pumped up to be on your show.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on today. First of all, just kind of tell us where you are now and kind of what you've been up to lately in the last month or a few weeks or whatever.
Awesome. Well, right now, I currently do my recordings for my show from my mom's house. So I wanted to use all my top of the line equipment for your guys' show because I'm so
Awesome.
excited to be on it. Right. I'm at my mom's house right now, which is in Scarborough, Ontario. And I am aspiring to get into the motivational speaking for this school year. So probably January is probably going to be where that's picking up a little bit. Of course, I have my show going on. So I'm doing about 2 recordings a week. And I'm just having a great time, guys, just networking and getting to meet people just like yourselves.
Awesome. And you got a pretty incredible story, which we're for sure going to get to in this podcast. But why don't we start about talking about your podcast a little bit? It's called The Sheriff. You have the nickname The Sheriff. We're going to get to that too. But I was looking at some of the guests and I listened to a couple. Theo Fleury was your last one that just came out. You had Don Cherry on at one point, Darren McCarty, Brandon Prust, among other huge guests. So how's it been getting in the podcast game and getting to interview some of these guys I'm sure you cross paths with over your career?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, guys, is it's a blessing. Like, it's a blessing to be able to do it, just like you guys know. And it's also a blessing to be able to, like I was just mentioning, connect and network with the people that you meet doing the show, right? So, I mean, for me, what has it brought to my life? It's brought me closer to my family. You know, I'm working pretty closely, like with my brother-in-law. He does a lot of the producing. You guys dealt with Danny. That's my brother-in-law, Danny Granger. He's also an artist at Danny Granger Art. Does incredible portraits for my guests and everything else that you can think of. So it's brought us closer together. Like I mentioned before, I do the recordings from my mom's house, so I get to spend some quality time where I grew up. And in the meantime, I get to talk some sports and do what I'm really passionate about, which is entertain people and tell stories, right? So I plan on being a sports broadcaster. So I look at this as a running resume, and I'm really excited to do it, guys, especially doing your show tonight.
What's the story on how the podcast started for you? We kind of talked about it a little bit before we started recording here, how it started for Brady and I. We were just kind of shooting the shit, and then it just kind of turned into something that we didn't necessarily think it would. But just like, what was like the first episode for you? Kind of like, did you ever imagine where your podcast would be where it is today?
Well, I mean, I always had an interest in doing something like this, right? And how it came about was I was a guest, just like I am now, on a show called Enforcer's Corner, where a gentleman named Kyle Warner, who's an American kid based out of Philly, had a hockey enforcers podcast, right? Where he was pretty much getting like, you know, old AHL guys, and he was a big AHL fan, and, you know, really cool type of show. And we hit it off right away. We got along. I mentioned that, you know, that I was interested in doing something like this. And a couple days after our recording, you know, he hit me up to let me know when it was going to be released. And he's like, hey, dude, you know, do you ever think of joining forces with someone? You know, I'd be your guy. And I'd be like, well, in fact, I am. So we ended up joining forces. He said that, you know, he would take care of all the tech stuff. He'd be my co-host. Nice. I'd be the player. And, you know, we could use all our assets together to create a great show. And, you know, that's what we've done. And, you know, our goal is, like we were mentioning before, just trying to release the best content possible, be as entertaining as possible, and really get some good stories out there, because I feel that my era in hockey has kind of been forgotten, which is kind of like the tough guy era. So guests that I get to have on that are kind of close to my age, guys like Brandon Sugden, you know, Mike Scroy, you know, guys like that, like I really appreciate it because we can kind of tell our stories from my era of playing, and having a great time doing it.
Yeah, and Matt and I had to miss a lot of that era. Kind of got out of the game a little bit as we were getting older, but we saw the tail end of it for sure.
We saw the Colton Orr back in.
Yeah, Colton Orr, Fraser McLaren. That's what I remember from the peak of the fighting, at least with the Leafs for sure. But I want to get right to the start of your hockey career. So the term that gets thrown around a lot in junior hockey now when a guy plays on lots of different teams is suitcase. And I don't want to mean any disrespect by saying that, but in 3 years, 6 OHL teams for you. So just talk about the OHL journey. You got to play Sarnia, Kitchener, Kingston, Mississauga, London, and Oshawa. So some pretty unreal organizations too. So just talk about your OHL career a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. No. I mean, the 6 teams thing. I mean, you have to ask, right? That's a lot of teams for one player to be playing for. And I mean, pretty much the answer to it was my second year in the league. I actually was on 3 teams in just the one season. I was fortunate enough to mix pass with the legend Don Cherry. He owned the Mississauga Ice Dogs, right? And the only problem is that the time that I was there, the team wasn't very good. It was the year that Spezza got drafted 2nd overall. He was trying to go first, and there was the big Spezza trade, and they ended up just trading everyone that year. And there was so many trades that as soon as they traded me to Kingston, I was traded to London 2 weeks later. So I feel that if I wasn't really involved with that team, that it would have been like kind of a more normal number of teams. But playing for 3 teams in 1 year, I mean, that's obviously going to boost up your teams, right?
Yeah.
So that happened. And then, I was drafted to Sarnia. Mark Hunter got fired at Christmas time. So I was traded to the great city of Kitchener. Where I really, really had a great time. Got to play with guys like Andrew Peters, Derek Roy, Jimmy Gagnon, your hometown boy. It was a great time. And then, of course, that was the year that I was able to get drafted, right? So if it wasn't for Kitchener, if it wasn't where you guys are close to, I don't know if I would have got drafted or not, boys.
There you go. And I should say I probably wouldn't have thrown up the term suitcase if I was talking to you in person. It's a little intimidating to say to somebody that's nicknamed the Sheriff and once put up over 500 penalty minutes in a season. So no disrespect by that comment from me, though.
No, bro, I don't take it as disrespect at all. I know you guys are hockey guys and you guys are having a good time.
Yeah,
it's all good.
How challenging was it though, just to be on the 6 teams throughout those only a couple of years? Like obviously every team has a different system, and especially when you're at such a young age trying to prove yourself as a potential future professional hockey player, just how challenging was that for you to have to kind of move around from team to team like that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely shouldn't downplay the fact that it was challenging, because it definitely was. I'm just kind of joking about it now, but for one thing, I was lucky because the Hunter brothers, well, Mark Hunter in specific was with me in Sarnia and London, right? And he was the one that drafted me to the league. And then him and Dale bought London and traded for me a couple of years later. So I was lucky enough to kind of be under their wing. They always had what my best interests were. And that was part of the reason why I finished my career in Oshawa, because, this is kind of a cool story. Brian McGrattan was actually the guy in Oshawa, and there was some kind of altercation where there was a desk that was flipped in the coach's office, and Brian, as a result, got traded to Owen Sound. So Oshawa was looking for a guy that they were going to give 3rd line ice to. They needed a team tough guy, and they wanted a guy in front of the net on the power play. So Mark Hunter's hearing this, knowing that I'm drafted by Buffalo, knowing that I'm only known as a fighter at this time. Yeah. And he did me the blessing by trading me there. So I started to get some ice time. I started to put up some numbers. I got a hat trick against the Peterborough Petes, which doubled my goal total right away. Right. And I kind of showed Buffalo that I could play. My big butt in front of the net, I was able to cause some havoc. And, the positives added up, and I was able to sign my entry level, right? So it's funny how it works. Like, that's why you should never, ever burn your bridges, because you never know if you're going to be playing for the same guys or working for the same people down the road. And, you always have to be on good terms.
For sure.
What age did you kind of realize that you would maybe have a potential career in hockey? Like, was it 14, 15, kind of that young teenager age? And especially to be drafted in the 2nd round OHL as well. Like that's a huge accomplishment. It's definitely got to be a huge confidence booster as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there, brother. I think it was when I did get drafted to the OHL. That was when, my family, my friends, myself, like everyone was kind of like, so, you're going to do something with this then. Let's, you just got drafted, man. Like, That's fantastic. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think at that point, I knew I was only a year away from the NHL draft. And, you know, when it's that close and you've been doing, and that's been your dream your whole life, you know, you're definitely going to go for it. Right. So I think it was just a no brainer that I was going to go after I got drafted. And, you know, I moved to Sarnia, which is about 3.5 hours from my hometown when I was 17.
For sure. Before we move off the OHL now, it's a lot different league than it was during the time you were playing. Is there any off the ice stories that come to mind from your 3 years in the OHL that you wouldn't mind sharing? Anything from any of the towns you played in, just maybe the travel or whatever it was?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest difference is probably, you know, the hazing and stuff like that, because what we learned as a society is that bullying just isn't good, no matter if it's for fun during sports or no matter if it's in school or on the street or wherever it is, right? So that's pretty much what the hazing was in the OHL. It was just big time bullying to the rookies, right? So I think that was the biggest difference. Is there used to be like big rookie parties, man, and they call them rookie parties, and pretty much what the whole point of the party was just to get the rookies as messed up as possible, just so they could embarrass themselves. And, you know, like, and
Yeah.
I know they're definitely not allowed to do that anymore. I don't know if there maybe is secret ones that happen or whatever now, but I mean, that's probably the biggest difference. I remember the rookie parties that the rookie party I had in the OHL, the rookie party I had, you know, when I was in Rochester in the AHL, and you know, they were pretty wild, and like I don't think that stuff would fly anymore. I don't think that'd be allowed.
Right.
One more OHL question for you here. So we have a ton of OHL guys that have recently come on the pod in the last couple of years. One of the questions we usually ask them is basically, what's your favorite road arena? Like, what's your favorite place to play? Recently, in the last couple of years, all the guys that we asked, the majority of the answers are London. So for you, where was the place to play back when you played in the OHL?
Okay, well, when I was in London and before that playing against London, it was the Ice House, right? So it was before the Labatt Center or whatever they call it now. But saying that, I think I'm gonna stick with the majority here, man. Like, it was London. It was London, and it was London because I had family that would come to the game, so it'd be like really, I'd be really up for that reason. Because of the size of the crowds, you know, that you were guaranteed to have. And the only other place that I could really imagine feeling more special playing in would be that the arena that they had in Ottawa, that the Ottawa 67s were playing in at the time. It was the arena that, I don't know if they still play there, the arena that the Senators were in before they went to their new arena. So this is 20 years ago, right? So yeah, Ottawa and London, man, 100%.
Moving on to your first year professional, which was 2002, 2003. So you played 64 games in Rochester that year, one game with the Sabres. We'll start with Rochester. 64 games played, 315 penalty minutes. So obviously it's a huge jump going from the OHL straight to the AHL that next year. You're playing against grown men all of a sudden, and you're still a young guy going in that league. Still putting up 315 penalty minutes though. Was it kind of in your head, like, I got to fight pretty much every game I'm out here, or how's that going on in your head?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like once you get to the AHL and probably the coast too, they all have the stat packs. You start getting these stat packs. So you get to the rink, get to the dressing room, and there's this pack that has all the league leaders in it, right? So there's points, there's goals, assists, points, penalty minutes, fighting majors. Okay. Right? This would be all on the same page.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, I remember, guys, like my first shift in the AHL was after a goal. It was probably halfway through the first period, and I line up against Rob Skurlak, who's just an all-time AHL fighting legend, right? The guy didn't play very much. He was just there to fight for Albany. He was there forever. And I fought my first shift. So boom. And then what happened was I think I pulled, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen when Scott Parker fights Probert. It's his first fight that time that he fights Probert. He was one of my guests, so we talked about this. And he was so excited to fight Probert that when Probert like buckles him, he just can't let go of him. He just refuses to let go. And the refs are like, man, you got to let go. His teammates are like, parts that you got to let go. But he was just so into it that he just couldn't let go. It was kind of like that for me too. Like Skurlock got me down, and then I just kind of like, I don't know, just wanted to make sure that when we got up, I was the one that got up first. So I think I did some extra stuff. They gave me a 10. So I had 15 minutes and a fighting major, one shift into my career. And then I was leading the league at that point, and then I just never wanted to lose that spot. So I would always see McMorrow 5 fighting majors, rest of the league like 4, 3, 2, 2, 2, like, and I never moved from that top spot for fighting majors. And as a rookie, it would be twice, because it'll be like rookie leaders, league leaders, McMorrow, right? And I was so competitive, man, that I just didn't want to lose that spot. Like all these guys were creeping up, and I just make sure that, I had another one that night and would stay ahead of them. And that's kind of how competitive guys are once they get on the leaderboards.
Yeah. And what are your coaches saying at that time? Is it just green light for you whenever you want to go, you're getting out there to go, or are they tapping you on the shoulder? How's that going?
Well, okay. So my head coach was Randy Cunningworth. So, hard-nosed guy, played in the NHL for a long time, total players coach. He loved the tough guys, right? It was me and Andrew Peters that were like the guys that would be in the lineup that would do that. And this is the time, guys, that in the AHL, there was at least 2 guys on every roster that were willing to go, that were heavyweights. You know what I mean? Because every NHL team still had at least 1 slot, and then most of the AHL teams had 2 or 3 slots sometimes, right? So you didn't really have to go looking too far. Like there was guys on the other side that were kind of licking their chops to contribute to their teams, right? So I got a tap a few times. I instigated a bunch, and I got asked a bunch too. Like Brandon Sugden, every time we came on the ice, he would just say, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" Wow. And I'd be like,
I guess.
Yeah. Right. And then that was it. You know what I mean? And then boom. And then, we would get that done. And then I think for both of us, the anxiety would kind of go away because we put on a show already. We already fought. If it happens again, it happens again. But now we can just kind of concentrate on playing a little bit because we've already fought. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the AHL guys, probably some of the NHL guys, looked at it like that. That's why you would see fights kind of more towards the beginning of the game, just because they're like, I just want to get it over with. Get it over with. You know what I mean? Set the tone. Like if you're doing it because you're at home and you feel good and you just want to set the tone. If you're doing it because you're on the road and you want to show the home team that you're here to play, there's all these different reasons, right? That guys would do it. And it's interesting because it doesn't happen as much, but I'm finding like I saw a fight from last night, New Jersey against Philly, I think. And it was center ice, and it was, man, they were chucking them, man.
Zach McEwen and I forget who on New Jersey.
Man.
You mentioned Andrew Peters, and I don't want to forget to say this because I was doing some research today. And did you get in a fight with Andrew Peters, who was on your team in training camp one year with the Buffalo Sabres?
Oh yeah, no, me and Petey had multiple fights in training camp. Petey and Bolton had multiple fights. Yeah. Bolton and Rob Ray had multiple fights. When it was Barnaby, May, and Ray, 25 years, 30 years ago, there was dozens of fights. Like that's how it is. Like I've realized now with the guests that I have on my show, especially if it's an ex-tough guy, Reed Lowe, for example, was in St. Louis for a while. We spent about 20 minutes in the show, him telling me about all the guys that challenged him in NHL camps, like Yablonski and all these guys that would come to camp. They would challenge Reed Lowe, the one-man show, right? And he would have to, defend his title. With me and Petey, we fought the year that Rob Ray was retired. He retired, and it was just Eric Bolton. And me and Petey knew that there was a spot for one of us. So we had to show what we could do. Yeah. Petey actually got hurt in one of the fights that we had. And that was the reason why I played so many preseason games that year. Like I ended up playing like 5 out of the 7 preseason games. So it's interesting how it works. Right. Petey was older. He ended up making the team that year. We're still buddies to this day. So it's interesting how it works.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think of fighting in pro hockey now, because obviously it's no secret that fighting is kind of on its way out. But in many ways, I don't know. In my personal opinion, I still think fighting should be in the game in a way, because that's kind of got how you got to protect certain players, or they're just going to start taking massive hits if they know they're not going to have to pay for anything. So I'm just kind of curious on what you think of the development over pro hockey over the last 10, 15 years, just with fighting kind of being minimized every single year.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a touchy subject, but the thing is that like it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. Obviously, as a guy that used to do it, I was disappointed to see it get grandfathered out. I would have rather seen them change the rules as far as like, ideas of special insurance for guys that get fighting majors. Like there's an idea that's been thrown out there, maybe on the Sheriff podcast that said like, let's say a player hits 5 fighting majors. Now he qualifies for a certain type of insurance because he's putting his body on the line more than his teammate beside him. Why not protect the players more? Why not have there be like, let there be like a UFC fighting coach on each NHL team to teach the guys how to punch properly so they don't break their hands, how to break a fall so they don't hurt themselves on the way down, how to make sure they don't hit their head on the ice. Like I would have loved to see those types of changes instead of just grandfathering out because you don't know what to do with it. I think there needs to be new leadership in the NHL. And I think that if there was meetings and you really were to ask the players, because it's really about the players, the NBA's made it about the players. So their league's very successful. With hockey, I bet you that if you polled all the NHL players, all 600 of them, they would all say, we want fighting in the game. Just protect them. Give them special insurance. Let us have a tough guy on each team. We love seeing it. We don't want to do it. Let them do it. Those guys that are fighting now, they do not want to do it. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you they don't want to do it. Yeah. They missed the days that there was a guy sitting there that everyone knew that he was going to be the guy that did it. And that's why his teammates appreciated him so much, right? I'm telling you, they don't want to do that, man. They're all so scared they're going to get hurt. They're making $5-6 million a year. You think they want to break their hand? They don't want to do that, right?
For sure. How did you learn the craft of fighting?
For me, it was just kind of like, I mean, I was always a big guy. When I was drafted, I was 6'4", 220, right? So I pretty much, I like tried it out, was very successful at it, and then got a lot of confidence off of that, and just realized that this is kind of securing me a spot on every team I play on. Why not have that in my back pocket? And just kind of went with it, right? And then as soon as you get to the pro ranks, it's like, more designated where, you're the guy, you're the one that's going to be doing it. So don't expect other guys to step up before you, right?
So besides the fighting part of it, did you have any other like eye-opening moments moving from junior hockey into pro hockey, just on how the game was played or just adjusting to the pro style?
I think like when it comes to pro, it's interesting how much communication is important. Like if you go to a pro game, you'll notice that, guys are like yelling like, here, open this way. Like whatever it is that they're saying it, right? Where if you go to like the younger or lower levels, you don't hear it as much. So I think the communication was the biggest difference. And then once you kind of figure that out, then it's easier to play.
And you're in that same season, you also played one game for the Buffalo Sabres that year. You played it in Toronto there. Just kind of talk about what that entire day was like, what that experience was like playing in the NHL. It would have been such an amazing day, I bet.
The phone call too, call.
Oh, like the call up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. No, and it's awesome. I appreciate you guys asking. So I mean, for me, like there's a couple different ways that like guys get called up. Like, like you do get that phone call or whatever sometimes. A lot of the times when it's an AHL setting, the player will be told right after practice, like it'll be like the morning practice, and then the coach will like pull them aside and will tell them, you got the call, you're called up, and this is when you have to report. So you or whatever. And that was the situation with me, right? So it was after a regular practice. Randy Cunnyworth was my coach, And I'll never really forget the way he said it. I thought I was in trouble because it's not uncommon for a fourth liner, fifth, sixth defenseman to have to do extra stuff after practice. So I didn't think it was too weird that he was calling me over. But then as the closer I got, the weirder he got. And I'm just like, what's going on here? This doesn't really seem right.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of like, he was leaning on his stick like this, coaches do when they're watching. And he was just like looking me straight in the eye. And he's like, I'll never forget the way he said it. No, it was hilarious. Just listen to this. So the way that he said it is he goes, Mac, you got the call. You're going to the show. Just with this big grin on his face, right?
Nice.
So it was awesome. I jumped off the ice right away, called my family, called my mom, told her, that I got called up. She was kind of like, well, who are you playing against? And I'm like, it's Toronto. It's going to be this Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Like what we all dream about as kids to be a part of, right? And so to be told that it's such a great feeling, guys. And like it really is. It sounds cliche because it's a cliche, but it really is a dream come true, right?
For sure.
And so when the game actually happened, we went to it was just Buffalo to Toronto, so it wasn't like we flew there. Like it was a really nice chartered bus that we took up the QEW, and we stayed at the Weston Harbor Castle, which was right by the Air Canada Centre. That's what the arena was called at the time. Now it's a Scotiabank Arena, and my roommate was Curtis Brown. He was a really good veteran, kind of like kept me calm and stuff, and yeah, we got there in the morning, checked into the hotel, had our meals, pregame nap, went to the rink, and we ended up losing the game. I got 2 or 3 minutes of ice time, but I got out there, man, and for me it was that's what I wanted to accomplish. Like that's what I wanted to be a part of, and so to get a chance to do that was priceless.
You'll have those 2 or 3 minutes the rest of your life. So
yeah,
exactly, man, for sure.
And that just kind of leads into my next question here too. Like, just like looking back at that day now, like if you had to choose one thing you remember most, or just one thing you take with you every day from that day, like what do you remember most?
I would probably have to say how loud it was for the national anthem. And the reason for that is because this was at the time when the US decided that they were going to invade Iraq. Okay, so I don't know, you guys are really young, right? So what happened was Canada, we decided that we weren't going to support them on that, right? Like there was a lot of countries that didn't support the US. So as a result, the weekend before that in Montreal, the US anthem actually got booed, right? And like you can't do that, right? And there was, CBC was on it all week, and then boom, there's the weekend that I get called up in the Toronto game. So what they did was to try to make up for the Montreal fans booing the US anthem, it was extra loud in the Air Canada Centre. Just happened to be McMorrow's first NHL game. So the crowd's going berserk for the US anthem. And then the Canadian anthem comes on and they're just going berserk because they want it to be even louder than the US one. And here I am standing there all nervous, just don't even know what to do with myself. So I'll never forget how loud it was, man. Like that's the one takeaway for sure.
Were you able to go get a beer after the game and celebrate it a little bit, or no?
Mean, I had like 25 family members at the game and stuff. But the team was leaving right after, so we were gone right after. So we didn't kind of stick around. Like you see your people in the where all the players meet their families and stuff. Like I saw everyone there, but then we were back to Buffalo. So yeah, but it was just good to see everyone for a few minutes after the game.
For sure.
Yeah, that would have been an incredible day. The next 3 years after that, you were with Rochester in the HL there, still in the Buffalo organization. Just kind of talk about what those 3 years were for you. Did you ever hear about any potential close call-ups again, or just what did you take away most from those 3 years and kind of building your game there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the unique thing is that, when you're looking at those years, the 04-05 season was the lockout season, right? So there was no NHL that year. And then the year after that was my last year, my fourth year with Rochester. That's when all the rules changed. And so what happened was there was like 20 penalties a game. Like that was when they they changed the rules where before you used to be able to hook a guy a little bit, you know, as long as you weren't bothering him too much, the ref wouldn't call it. But now, as soon as you make contact with your stick on the jersey or anything, boom, it's obstruction. It's a penalty right away. The game changed. So for the tough guy, that was when a couple other things happened too. Like they made it mandatory visors in the AHL and NHL. That's when they started grandfathering the visor thing in, where any of the new players going into the NHL had to wear a visor, and everyone in the AHL had to wear a visor. So right away, you got guys like me and Brandon Sugden are like, okay, so we have to fight each other with visors on now, and we're gonna hurt our hand. You know what I mean? So like they kept making more and more rules to
and you couldn't take your helmet off, right? Like that was a rule too.
Yeah, exactly. So they were just making it harder to do the job, and as a result, you know, that got a couple guys to drop out, and you know, and then it was like a snowball effect. But to be honest with you, the third year, the 04-05 season, that year was my best year. You know, I put up small numbers. I was the most improved player on the Rochester Americans. I won that award. Yeah, it was a great year for me. Obviously, if you're winning most improved, you're having a good year, man. Because to get that award, they all have to agree with it. So everyone had to say, I think McMorrow's improved the most this year, right?
For sure.
And for an AHL club to do that and to acknowledge that, like you have to be grateful. So I had a great season that year. I really wish there was an NHL that year, because I'm telling you, man, I was the most improved guy on the AHL.
You would have been up there.
I think I finished that year with 38 majors, like second or third to McGrattan. And, you know, I definitely would have got called up that year, I believe. You know, I had a ton of confidence. Buffalo was very happy with me. Like, I believe maybe I would have got about 10 or 20 games that year.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
awesome.
man, I was on fire. Like, you see my numbers before that year, and then you see me putting up the 3-3, right?
Yeah, so, 3-3.
You know, like I did improve, right?
Yeah.
And I was loving it. I was loving the city. I was loving the team. You know, like my personal life was going well. Like when everything works out, like look good, feel good, play good, right?
That's
you hear that saying all the time, right? When everything works out. So I believe that year would have been a lot of call-ups, boys. And then the following season, that was the year that I got in all those preseason games. And it was me and Paul Gosted that were the last cuts that season in training camp. We made it right to the end, man. And they were. I remember my meeting getting sent down. They're just like, we're going to see you really soon. This is just a numbers thing. You had a great camp. You know, we'll see you right back up here. And, you know, obviously it didn't happen, but at that time, like I was going towards that path.
Yeah, that 04-05 season you mentioned, 3 goals, 3 assists. Do you remember the first professional goal that year? And can you describe the play?
I can't describe the play. I just remember that it was against Syracuse.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take it. Yeah, you're putting up the points that year. We're gonna get back to the LNAH, and then you went 2 years there. That's the Quebec League, and then you played another year in Rockford in the AHL. But 2010, you went over to Europe, and your life kind of turned that year a little bit. And I don't know how much you want to talk about it or how much you're willing to talk about it, but I think it's an important part of your story, and I really want our listeners to hear. So can you give us a little breakdown on what went down in 2010?
100%. So
Awesome.
So yeah, and like obviously, guys, like you see me smiling about it now, right? But it actually took me a few years to be able to even talk about it. It was a very, very disappointing, upsetting time in my life. What happened was, towards the end of that season, about 2-3 weeks left in the season, when I was playing for Belfast Giants, I got a call from a lawyer saying that I was indicted as part of a marijuana conspiracy case that was based in Rochester, New York. So how it works in the States with the conspiracy cases is you need more than one person to testify that someone was part of a conspiracy. So what happened with me was, a couple of my old buddies involved my name in a dry conspiracy case, something that they said that had happened years ago, but they were putting together an investigation on it. And I was kind of strung along by my lawyer saying, you know what, This is going to go away. You're going to get a probation sentence. All you need to do is just come back in voluntarily and face the music. So that's what I did. I came back in, I faced the music. My lawyer pretty much said that it was a publicity stunt just to kind of hang on, and that he'd get things kind of dropped and things would go away. You know, time passes, and it goes from, it's not going to get dropped, but it's just going to be probation. You're not going to go to jail. This is just the way that we have to do it. And,
Right.
you know, me and my family were convinced that I was going the right path to kind of sort this out. I was forced to sign something that I didn't want to sign, but I was told that this is a plea agreement I'm talking about. I was told that it was in my best interest to do this, for me to be able to get myself out of this mess that I was in. And long and behold, when it came down to the sentencing, the judge just shocked everybody and threw out a 24-month sentence. And to my despise, I wasn't able to prepare for it at all. Usually someone in my situation that may know that they're going to face a little bit of time, their lawyer is able to negotiate a self-surrender. So what that is, you know, after you get sentenced, you're able to go home for about 30 days, get your affairs together, you know, sort out your family issues. Your family is able to drive you to the facility. You know, these are people that have no violence and no weapons in their case, like mine was.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wasn't able to do that because my lawyer was pretty much making me believe that I wasn't going to do time. So when the time came that I got it, you know, it was okay. This is the sentence. And then it's like, okay, see you later, sheriff. You know what I mean? That's it. Show's over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So it was a shock to the system. I was engaged at the time. So my whole fiance's family was in the courtroom. I had my whole family in the courtroom. There was a big party planned in Toronto that night, because everyone was just convinced that everything was going to be fine. And I was coming home that day. Like this was a shocker, guys. Right. So like, you know, luckily for me, I had incredible support, not only from the hockey team that I was playing for, the Marquis de Jonquière, because this was 2012 to 2014 timeline that we're talking about. So this is when I was playing for the Marquis, and, you know, Dean Lidegascos, and everyone in that organization was so supportive. My family was so supportive. I thought that because I'm in this situation, what do I do now? I got to make the best of the time, right? So what I did was, you know, you guys know, like knowing the OHL guys, that sometimes, you know, things get so serious with the hockey that these guys aren't really finishing their high school, right? And, you know, that was the situation with me. I never finished. I was 2 credits short of finishing my high school, right? I played for those 6 teams, kept getting traded and going to different schools and stuff. So, you know, I missed out graduating on time. And so while I was there, you better believe that I got my education when I was at that institution, right? And so I got my GED, and then I ended up teaching the GED, and then I ended up teaching a bunch of exercise classes. I took a bunch of business classes. I kind of tried to, I was able to figure out what my values were, what the true meaning of success was, just by these paradigm thinking classes that I was taking. And you know, I was able to kind of improve myself as a person and learn who Sean McMorrow was. And when the time was over, which was the 20 months, which is a very long time, guys, I was able to jump right back into hockey. And I just remember just being thankful for so much more. And, you know, and I had this time to kind of be able to catch up on things that I was behind in, and like education wise. And, you know, so I really tried to make the best of the time and get through it. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without a strong family support.
That's amazing, because a lot of people in your situation wouldn't have been able to take that time to better themselves. They might have like their life might have not gone in the right direction after something like that. So that's amazing. You're able to better yourself and just learn all those things while you were serving that time. So congrats. That's an amazing story. I don't even really know where to go from there.
I mean, it's very unique.
Yeah.
It's something that I plan on. I mean, guys, like I'm trying to be like a motivational speaker, right? So like I have a story to tell. I have a big message to send. You know what I mean? And so this type of stuff, I find is very important, because being an athlete, you know, people resonate with athletes, right? Like they want to at least give them a chance to hear what they have to say, right?
Yeah.
So I'm using my platform as a former professional athlete, someone that's gone through a very unique experience. Now, why did it happen? How can you avoid it? And how can you never have to be a part of it will be major parts of the motivational speech, right?
Yeah.
So trust me, it's very unique. It's emotional. It is questionable, like where to go from it in an interview. But you've done such a great job so far, buddy. I have a lot of confidence in you.
I know you have a question, Matt, but I just want to ask too. What's like one tip you would maybe give to a younger guy that's maybe in a situation that you were in the time, and maybe help them get out of it?
Well, here's the thing. You have to get different opinions. With me, we thought because we went with the guy that was almost the most expensive, that was supposed to have this great reputation, we put all our trust into him. If an athlete's ever in trouble, his fault or not his fault, he needs to get a couple different opinions, because not everybody has your best interest in mind, right? So that's the one advice I would give. Secondly, you just gotta walk a very narrow path. If you're not able to introduce some of your friends to your parents, then you shouldn't be hanging around them. So the biggest thing is not being around the type of people to get you involved with anything negative. And then secondly is, if it does happen, your fault or not, you got to get multiple opinions on it, not just go down one route.
Yeah. And obviously you made the best of the situation there, but just on like the down days, like in the lowest of the low moments, how do you kind of pull through those moments and just kind of keep a good head on your shoulders? Because I'm sure there would have been days where it was just, you know, just very tough emotionally and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like with family support and support from friends and loved ones and stuff, it really helps to kind of get through anything in life. My motivation was just the fact that, like, I was so passionate about playing hockey and just so passionate about like returning to everything that I had before, that I was just so tunnel visioned on that, and I wasn't really gonna let anything interrupt that, right? So I'm just thankful for the support. And you know, I'm a dreamer. I always dream big, and you know, it's always good to dream big, because we all deserve the best, so we got to aim for it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What's just maybe to go on the lighter side for a second, what is there, like, maybe what's like the stupidest question you've been asked about when you were serving time? Like, do people come up to you and just like ask you about jail that it's just like the stupidest question ever?
Well, this is the thing. Like I mentioned, you know, I'm smiling about it now, but like it took me a while to be able to even talk about it, right?
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
so you have to imagine, we're in 2021. We're really close to 2022. This was between 2012 and 2014, right? So it was a little while ago that it happened. The first few years, I wasn't willing to talk about it at all. I wasn't ready to talk about it. I hadn't really accepted it yet for myself. But then now that I have these career aspirations, that I want to be this motivational speaker, I got to have this part of my story. So now I'm talking about it, right? But it's more kind of controlled, like how we are. Like, we're doing a show. This was the big event that happened in my life. We got to talk about it. If I want to be a motivational speaker, I have to own what happened in my life in order to explain it and be able for it to help other people, right? So now I'm talking about it more, but it's with people that are well-minded, just like yourselves. It's not usually random people. Just because it happened so long ago, it's not really a topic of conversation amongst my peers, right?
Right.
What did your
I'm old, man. You guys know how old I am. I'm 39 years old, brothers.
Oh, you're not old. You're not old.
I could be both your dads, man.
I was just
A young
gonna
dad.
ask what was the day-to-day like for you while you were in jail? Like, what were you able to kind of do to kind of keep yourself busy and just kind of like keep things moving forward for yourself and keeping your mind busy?
Well, because it was a conspiracy marijuana case, right? That means that, you know, there was no violence, there was no weapons. there was no weed. It was a conspiracy case, right? So my point is that I was sent to the lowest of the lows security.
Okay.
So these places are for mostly for white collar crimes or conspiracy cases like myself.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of guys that kind of cheated on their taxes, credit card fraud. Taxes was a big one because it was federal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just guys doing white collar crimes, man, that just messed up and stuff. And so with the lows, there wasn't even a fence. Like, it was called a camp. So there wasn't even a fence there because it was that low of security. We were able to walk around a lot. It was like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Orange Is the New Black, where it's like, they're not really in cells. It's like these
Right.
mini walls that kind of separate them, and there's bunk beds and stuff.
Okay.
That was kind of the setup. So it was like a bunk bed setup. There wasn't like a cell thing. I may be seen. I was there. I was there for close to a year and a half, and I maybe seen a handful of fights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's different than the stuff you see on TV. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the expression club fed. It's like Club Med is like a vacation thing, and Club Fed is what they usually call the feds in the States, especially the lows, because they say it's like a vacation instead of like going to jail. So yeah, there wasn't any violence in there. There was a lot of opportunity for exercise and sports that they had there. Like I said, I was able to get my GED. So of course, for someone that hasn't been to school for a while, that's not a very easy exam. So you got to prepare for that. So, there was a lot of studying and reading, and, I was taking a bunch of other classes, and I kind of made a routine where I'd work on my body and I'd work on my mind, and I'm just trying to improve myself. And, the favorite class that I took was a class called Paradigm Thinking. And this was a class that kind of taught you to be in the here and now. It taught you that through exercises and instruction, you kind of learn what your top values are, what the real definition of success. A lot of people think success is a fast car and a pretty blonde wife, but really it's living out your true values, living in the here and now, and being present. That's what success is, because that's when you're going to get it, right? So
Sure.
I learned all about that, and like I said, I learned who Sean McMorrow was, and I tried to do my best to make myself a better person.
Man, you got this motivational thing down. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm fired
Hey,
up.
man. Well, you know what? My first one actually starts in 10 minutes. So I'm just joking. But
I'm ready to go make myself a better person after this, man.
Yeah, buddy. I hear you, man. And yeah. I know I'm blabbering on a lot, so I apologize.
No, we appreciate it, and we love that you're telling your story. And obviously you're more than willing to tell your story now. But you kind of mentioned before that after your time there was kind of a 2-3 years there where it wasn't something that you were really open to talking about. So after your time was done, where did you want to be headed next in life? Like, what were your kind of like the main purpose that you wanted to carry out? Because obviously that wasn't something that you were really willing to kind of, I don't know, I guess move forward with right away, because it wasn't something you wanted to talk about necessarily. So I'm just kind of wondering, once you were done, what kind of direction did you want to go, and what purpose did you kind of want to have?
So when I was done, I was 32 years old. So I knew that I wanted to play at least a few more seasons of pro hockey, right? And so I was in very close contact, like I said, with the team that I was on before I left. And so the plan was to it was about February when I came back, which is, usually about, 3/4 into the season, before the playoffs and all that. So I remember going up for a weekend, seeing my team, and just letting everyone know that I was coming, like in training camp, to come back. So that's what I ended up doing. I prepared, got back on the ice. I hadn't been on for a while, right? And so I just kind of prepared for that hockey season, and that was what was on my mind, to just be able to return to hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really want to talk about what happened. Just wanted to go return to hockey and be a hockey player again, and do all that stuff, right? Once I kind of hung the skates up, then that was when it all came together with me wanting to do the TV broadcasting, me wanting to be the motivational speaker. Okay, well, if I'm going to do this, if I want to be a character on TV, I'm going to have to own what happened to me and talk about it freely and use it to help people. That's my choice, right?
Yeah.
So that's when that came about. But the first couple of years, buddy, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play again. Wasn't really worried about all this stuff that I got going on now. I just wanted to be simply a hockey player again, like I've been since I was 20, professionally.
For sure. I feel like we might have to do a part 2 of this sometime, because we've been going long, which has been awesome. I love everything that's been talked about. But
hey man, I will officially say right now, I will do a part 2 with you guys.
Awesome.
I will do it.
Awesome.
I'm having a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, parts of 7 seasons in the LNAH, which is insane. And one of those seasons, maybe just quickly, let's talk about that season, because it's got to be some kind of record. 48 games played, 527 penalty minutes. That was in 07-08 with some French name I'm not going to try to say.
Yeah. Saint Hyacinthe Top Design. In French, it's Saint Hyacinthe.
Yeah, Saint Hyacinthe. There we go. I probably would have nailed that if I tried. But 527 penalty minutes. Is that? I think. Well, I mean, I should find out the average, but that's got to be over 10 minutes a game, is it not?
Yeah. It's man, like that. Okay, so I had a couple go arounds with the league, right? So that was the first one. At that time, the league was a lot different than how it is now. Okay, and it was very wild. I was on the top team in the league. Like, we finished first place in the regular season, so we had like the team that was kind of, the guys were getting paid a lot of money, and we were kind of competing with the team that's called the Chiefs, which is usually the popular team that what the movie is based after. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called Les Chiefs, LES space Chiefs.
Okay.
And it's a documentary on a team in this league. I think it's like the 2000-2001 season, where they win the cup and they kind of follow around the tough guys. And you guys ever get a chance, watch that movie.
Okay.
It gives you an idea of what the league was like when I first got to it that season.
Okay.
So there was 5 fighters on our team. We were all rated 1 through 5. Okay. So I was the number 1, this big guy coming in from the AHL, McMorrow, he's our number 1, right? And then, Ryan James Hand was my number 2, who was recently on my show. And we had our 5 guys, right? And so did all the other teams. So for me, I was getting paid a lot of money to fight the number 1s on all the other teams, right?
Who's making these rankings? Like your GM?
Who's making the rankings?
Yeah.
It would be like, I guess, I always thought that they secretly betted on the fight, at least for the number 1s, because it was just set up to okay, so I'll give you guys an example of what a pregame meeting would be for the tough guys in that league.
Okay.
We get called into the coach's room, right? there'd be the power play guys would have their power play meeting, PK guys at their PK meeting. Then the tough guys come in. There's 4 to 6 of us will be in the room. And they'd be like, okay, so McMorrow, you're fighting Basse, Hand, you're fighting Cote, Termini, you're fighting this guy. And so everybody knows who their guy is, right? Now remember, the home team always gets last change, right? So if one of those guys were thrown out, on the ice, if the coach put them out, on the visiting team, then the home team would throw out the guy that was told that they was fighting that guy. He would go out.
Jeez.
If it wasn't like that, it would be all guys starting the game, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it would just be from the head nods of the coaches, it would be who was going first.
Man, I think you're right. I bet 100% that they were gambling on that.
That's what I always thought, man. There was a lot of cash. There was I've talked to guys that played in the league. And, sometimes we would kind of have feelings that we kind of feel bad that we're talking about it like this. But this happened this is 10, 15 years ago. It happened. The league's different now. The league used to be involved with the Hells Angels. Everyone used to get paid in cash and envelopes.
Wow.
Guys wouldn't know what to do. They would get paid before practice. like let's say you're getting paid $1,000 a game, right?
Okay.
So you're getting $2,000 in an envelope. Where are you going to put the $2,000?
Yeah.
You're getting it
Yeah.
before practice. So where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
Are you going to put it in your car? Are you going to hide it in your stall? Where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
guys would just keep it on them. Goalies would put it in their pads.
For
Like,
practice.
it was crazy. Like it was on a whole different level of guys going to the KHL in Russia, getting paid in cash. I talked to guys like Freddie Brathwaite. The guy's making $1 million a season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? His paychecks are every month. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because it's only a 7-month season. It's like $200,000. Where are you going to put that money, man?
Yeah.
Where are you going to put it? He would put it right in his pads, man. He'd keep it right on him. It's not going anywhere, right?
That's hilarious.
So-
It would. Or sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to
don't
say it would make sense that they were maybe betting on this because a lot of the YouTube fights I saw, the D or the face off would be in the D zone. Gloves, helmet would come off. You guys would just skate to center ice. The music would change.
Yeah.
Music would change.
Yeah. Every tough guy would usually have their own song.
Really?
Like for their home games, right?
Yeah.
So for example, when I was on the marquee, my song was Shipping Off to Boston.
I heard that on some YouTube
Yeah.
videos.
Same as my podcast. That's my podcast song. Well,
Nice.
we're only playing a certain amount of it so we don't get in trouble with copyright. But yeah, that pumps me up. So they would play it like as soon as the puck would drop, they would play that song, and then the helmet would come off. I do the spin, and it's the whole show,
I love the
right?
spin. Looks like you're spiking a football. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Man, it's very unique. The fans adore the tough guys. The tough guys are like novelties in the towns. Like John Nasty Morasti, that guy is like
Is
could
he
have
still
a
going?
statue. What's that?
Is he still going? By the way, is he still playing?
They're flying him in for specific weekends. I think this season. I read
No
something,
way.
but I'll have to ask him. But
Yeah.
he's doing a TV series in Sudbury, but I can't say the name of it because it hasn't been released yet. But there's a bunch of guys that are doing a really cool spin-off show in Sudbury right now.
Cool.
So that's going to be really interesting for all hockey lovers like us three.
Yeah.
I know Morasti's there, Terry Ryan's there, my buddy Jonathan Diaby, he's there from the Quebec League.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff going on in Sudbury, man. That's
Cool.
News pretty soon.
Cool. I think we'll maybe cut it off there because we definitely can do this again sometime.
We
I
got more.
just maybe to
Anytime, guys. Like you guys are awesome. And like we're all doing this for experience too, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like your life could be a movie at some point, and that would be a pretty amazing movie.
Hey man, if you want to produce it, let's get this on.
Well, I don't know how to do that, but I'll
keep
my eyes open.
But I hear you. I appreciate it. I'm still working on the length of time that I'm talking and the cutting off. So I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
I apologize for that.
You're good. This is fun. I appreciate you doing this. And where can people find you? You got your Instagram, Twitter, and then your podcast.
I'm Sheriff McMorrow at Sheriff McMorrow on all platforms, like on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Sheriff Sean McMorrow. The Sheriff Podcast on all platforms as well. You can find us on anywhere where they play podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. It's at the Sheriff Podcast.
Love it. Subscribe to that. And Theo Fleury was last guest, so I haven't listened to that one yet. I will though. That was I'm sure that'll be a good one.
Oh yes, it was. Theo's a great guy. Very exciting episode. You'll love it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for doing this, Sheriff, and it was nice meeting you.
It's nice meeting you guys too, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
We'll see ya.